for most of his life, the GP in these parts. And in retirement, an explorer of Sutherland's mysterious wilderness.
There's one question I'd like to ask Dr. Penn. I've climbed many of the mountains in Scotland and never been able to tell anybody because I couldn't pronounce the name. There's no easy clue, is there?
There's no easy clue. Just ask the locals.
Yeah.
What are the ones you have trouble with, then?
I can't tell you.
What about,
I can't pronounce it.
What about Quinag?
Well, I've always called it Quinag. You think it's...
Locally, it's pronounced Cognac.
Cognac.
Yes.
Perhaps we should get you a map out, A.W. We can
Well,
get a phonetic spelling of all.
I've been writing about them, or typing them, and I've got to check letter by letter from the map to make sure I've got them right.
Yeah. It's a remarkable landscape, this landscape in Sutherland, isn't it? I mean, like nowhere else I've ever seen. Such a bare landscape.
It is bare. Well, this part of Sutherland, of course, is the rock formation here is the Louisian gneiss. And that is it's said to be the oldest rock in Europe. It's also the hardest, and it's also the least fertile. So you're looking at a very, very infertile landscape where there are only a few pockets of soil cultivable. But one of the reasons why the landscape here is so bare is that during the last ice age, the thickest part of the ice cap was situated over West Sutherland. I can't remember how thick it was. It's 4,000 feet thick or something like that. And the pressure of this ice moving down towards the west literally scraped every vestige of primitive soil off these rocks. And so when the ice melted, you were left nothing but bare rock. And much of this is totally unchanged since the Ice Age, the barer bits.
Yeah, what was that phrase you used in your book about the Sutherland landscape?
Lunar, a lunar landscape. It's different from any other part of Scotland, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah, quite.
Are you finding that there's more use being made of the mountains now? Are more people coming to climb them? Are there more routes being made on the mountains?
Not a lot. Not a lot. One or two are becoming more popular. I would say that the two most popular mountains for climbers are probably Bent Stack and Cognac, where you now see many more people. But there are many of the hills here that you can almost guarantee to go on in the summer and not see anyone.
And not find any track up.
And not find, there are tracks up some of them, but I was astonished. I was up Cognac with my wife about 3 weeks ago, and I was astonished to find that there's actually a cairn route up there now, just like the Lake District. But we're getting more and more and more visitors up here in the summer, many foreign visitors, but I would say very few of them leave the roadside. They come in their cars and their caravans, and they park at the roadside. And
well, Mr. Wainwright hasn't done a full set of guides to your mountains yet, you see.
No, well, please don't.
The mountains are few and low in altitude because of the greater exposure to maritime weather and resulting degree of erosion. They are rarely linked and rise abruptly in magnificent isolation above the general level of the countryside. No other mountains, not even those much higher, have so magnetic an attraction. When one of them suddenly appears in view, the eye is drawn to it irresistibly, And in terrain so crowded with hillocks and hollows, so tortured by twists and turns, the most unexpected and startling glimpses of these remarkable peaks occur wherever one travels.
A.W.'s travels in Sutherland were never the superficial scurryings of the tripper who does this mountain or that, ticks them off in a sort of mountain spotter's guide. To Wainwright, the mountains are quite distinct characters, and one, more than any other, has become a friend of 40 years' standing.
A fine mountain there is Sullivan, one of my favourites. Straight ahead is Canis.
That's the other peak there?
That's right.
We were talking before about the comparison with the Lake District. That rocky bank over there could almost be a lakeland slope,
Well, if it was in the Lake District, you'd see paths going up it, and there'd be a cairn on top of it. Nobody's ever been on top of these, except possibly the occasional shepherd.
What are the particular things about this landscape that you like so much?
Wildness, loneliness. It's not spoilt in any way.
Oh, as we've come this bit further on, you can really see the ridge very clearly now.
You'll see it even more clearly in another mile. And you'll see a depression between the two peaks. And that's the route of ascent. But we'll see that further along.
I know you don't like comparisons with places overseas, A.W., but there's a real Mediterranean light on those hills over there.
Is there? I'll take your word for it.
Well, it certainly looks impressive from here.
It is impressive. It gives the impression of being unclimbable, doesn't it? There's a lot of rock climbing at this end of it.
It looks pretty sheer on this face here.
Well, there's just one easy way up. That's relatively easy. A way up that's no harder than many climbs in the Lake District. Altogether, I think Sullivan must rank amongst my favourites in Scotland. Beautiful.
When did you first see Sullivan?
Well, again, a long, long time ago, 30, 40 years, and walked up from Loch Inver to the base of the mountain, up the gully, onto the top, where there's a fantastic view.
Was the weather as good the first day you climbed?
No, it wasn't. No, when I got to this point, the top was under cloud, under black cloud too, but it cleared during the day. It must be 16 miles altogether. But, sort of day you never forget. Beautiful day. Wonderful experience. But this is a good one. I like this one.
All my holidays have been spent north of the border. I've never had a vacation anywhere else, nor wanted to. Those are my qualifications for daring, as an Englishman, to write about the glories of Scotland, and especially of the majesty and grandeur of the Highlands and coastal areas. Scots must forgive me. I love their country as they do.
For Wainwright, our journey to the west of Scotland was to be an emotional reunion with a landscape he first saw more than 40 years ago.
We're walking along above Loch Shieldaig, and this is really an inlet of Loch Torridon. There's the village in a beautiful crescent all the way around there. Oh, shall we settle down here for a minute?
There's a nice bit of heather over here.
Right.
It's warm.
The only way into Shieldaig in those days was the road from Loch Carron, about 12 miles. Beautiful day, I remember. And I had a strong feeling that I was the first visitor Shieldaig had ever had. There was no welcome at all, no bed and breakfast signs, no cafes, nothing. And there was no inn. I had to ask, is there not an inn in Shieldaig? No. There used to be. It was that building over there. If you go there, they might put you up for the night. So I went there, and there was a widowed woman, Mrs. Lewis, and she did put me up for the night. It was a very insular community. Obviously, they weren't accustomed to visitors at all. Nowadays, of course, it's vastly different. It's become very sophisticated. The village itself is bypassed by a new road, which has signs saying, turn into Shieldaig for services, bed and breakfast, hotels, meals, everything. But it's relatively unspoilt.
We were to travel through a remote quarter of Scotland, from Shieldaig to the Five Sisters and beyond. It was a wild, mysterious environment that A.W. had fixed in his mind's eye. But as we found, walking by Court Hill House on the shores of Loch Kishorn, it was a landscape that was under the pressure of dramatic change.
Now that's the house. That looks quite an evil place when it's raining and the clouds are low. Almost startling. It's been like this ever since I started coming to Scotland. And I always assumed it had been destroyed by fire. There's so many large houses in remote parts of the north have been. Because the nearest fire brigade was at Inverness, 80 miles away, and there was no hope of saving them. But I learned recently that the house and the estate were bought by someone from outside who wanted particularly to use the grounds of the estate, didn't want to live in the house, and took the roof off deliberately to avoid paying rates on the place. And it's been like this for at least 40 years. But what I wanted to show you was Kishorn, the oil rig installation at Kishorn, which you can see from here. It's a remarkable apparition, isn't it? That's the Kishorn oil rig installation, the subject of a great controversy about 15, 20 years ago. Now it's wound down. Its work's finished. Still, it remains to offend everybody's eyes as it comes along. It did bring, of course, prosperity to the area, and Loch Carron village especially benefited from the men who worked there. In fact, new houses were built for them, which I suppose will be for sale soon. Yeah, how well kept the graveyard is. Somebody cares for it.
You'll probably be able to trace the population of this entire community with these names.
Yes.
The Gordons,
Yeah.
Nicholsons, more Gordons.
We turned from the decay of Kishorn and set our faces to the high wild region that A.W. has written about with such affection. To the lad from industrial Lancashire, who'd spent a lifetime on the gentler slopes of English Lakeland, this is an awesome landscape, the looming mass of the giants of Torridon.
Torridon, to many admirers of natural grandeur, and especially to those in climbing boots who love to wander in high places, is Mecca. A goal to aspire to reach, the end of the search for uplift of the spirit, and to it they often return as pilgrims. The very name is a clarion call. It is strong, commanding, swashbuckling, suggestive of hell and high water, a little sinister, and a word that rolls well off the tongue, and the scenery more than matches it. Without the loch, Torridon would be a fearful place, but with it, there is not a grander prospect to be found in Scotland, and it is always fresh. The same scenes are photographed by the same cameras year after year, but the real atmosphere of Torridon cannot be taken back home, which is why people have to go there again and again and again.
So what loch is this?
This is Loch Clare. And the mountain we're looking at is one of the giants of Torridon, Leagach. Not looking very friendly at the present time. But I think it's impressive like that. More impressive than under a blue sky. It's very difficult of access. You'd need to be a real he-man to get on Leagach. But I noticed last time I was past that the track is forming from the road. Very, very steep, unremitting for 3,000 feet almost.
What amazes me looking at your drawings is the way you capture a mountain like that, because I mean there are all sorts of features that you can pick out on this one, but that just looks like such a formidable chunk of solid, featureless rock in lots of ways.
It does in this light, but it does break up into buttresses and cliffs. I have several photographs of this when it's quite clear. Nature in the raw, unspoilt, unpolluted, out of sight and sound of the roads.
Now, where do we go from here? If we walk on through here, because I mean,